Every time I hear those first 3 notes, a wave of emotions wash over me, and the memories of a whimsical adventure in a place lost to time flood my mind. So when I and everybody else on this planet tell you that this game is a concoction of some of the greatest moments of exploration and storytelling, and that you should avoid all manner of spoilers and experience it for yourself, we do not say this lightly. This video will contain snippets of the game taken somewhat out of context. VR is an extremely visual and experiential medium, and I do not think I can champion its qualities without showing you why it works. I'm not going to explain the story in detail, but even just witnessing some of these moments is part of the magic of the game. So if you plan on playing the game, close this video, complete the game, cry for a little bit, and then come right back to this video. You have been warned. Hi there, welcome back. So why should you play Outer Wilds? Well, you may not know this, but somewhere in the sky, a timer has started ticking. And that timer tells you how much time you have left before somebody spoils this game and steals this amazing experience from you. But you're not here for that. No, I'm here to tell you that if you haven't already experienced the magic that is Outer Wilds, or it's been some time and you wish to relive those memories, and you happen to own a VR headset, well then Santa's coming early, and I don't mean down the chimney. But why should you listen to the sounds coming out of my facehole? After all, how can I give you a reliable comparison of a game played in 2 different mediums if this is a game that can only be played once? Well, I've managed to play the game for the first time twice. Well, sort of, but not really. See, I bought the game at the tail end of 2020, and I remember being immediately sucked into this game. But then my PC decided to off itself, and then I graduated, and then I started working, and I just kinda forgot all about Outer Wilds. Fast forward to early 2024, I discovered that there was a VR mod for Outer Wilds with full motion control support. This mod is called Nomai VR, and it was developed by Pata, I believe. Installation was a breeze, and I played through the entire story from start to finish in VR. I had some idea of the premise and some recollection of maybe the first hour or 2 of the game when I played it back in 2020. But the very first takeoff in VR and that very first orbit around the sun hit so much harder than anything I had experienced on the flat screen. Watching the planets racing towards you in VR really lets you soak in the scale and the emptiness of space. And as you're taking it all in, the music kicks in, and you're filled with this childlike wonder that you're setting off on this amazing journey to a place the likes of which no man has ever seen before. Whether it's your first takeoff or the 7th time your autopilot crashes you into the sun, the awe of travelling through the vacuum of space never goes away. It pains me that the flat screen video that you're watching right now can never capture that magic. So you're going to have to trust me on this. And being in VR gives you this unexpected liberty to just look around in situations where your perspective would usually be locked on a flat screen. Out of nowhere, I just felt like turning back just to check if my ship was alright. And I don't know why, I was just surprised to see the interior of my ship staring back at me. Obviously, it's going to be there, but I never would have thought about doing that playing on PC. And there's something so comforting about looking back at this ship that you now call home and knowing that everything you need is right there behind you. For all the time we spend looking forward, we hardly ever look back. And playing in VR changed that for me. As you close in on a planet, you start circling in the air, trying to find that perfect landing. and I find myself craning my neck and looking out the windows just to try to realign myself. And that ability to look around in a space that heavily relies on all three axes? Axi? Whatever. Just hammers in that immersion. But let's not forget, you're no super soldier. You're a four-eyed mortal in a patchwork spacesuit and a feeble spaceship. You're vulnerable in the gaping jaws of space. And being in VR really puts that into perspective. There's a planet that's ravaged by cyclones, and the first time weaving through those cyclones probably took off several years from my life. When things go wrong, and it inevitably will, the game doesn't hesitate to toss you about like a little bitch. And I mean that quite literally. Your camera is spared no mercy as you ragdoll from one place to the other because you were a bit too trigger happy with the jetpack. Having my ship blown up right in front of me without any warning felt like a literal slap to the face. Oh. Another thing is that the game has no cutscenes, and short of dying, you never really meet any loading screens. Taking off and landing on planets is seamless. At no point does the game kick you out of your immersion in VR, and you're not forced to stand around looking like a clown while you wait for a stupid bar to run across the screen as you open the doors to Whiterun for the 100th time. I believe seated VR would be the ideal approach for this game. This is not a short 3 to 5 hour game. You're likely to spend about 12 to 14 hours for your very first complete playthrough, so you don't really want to be standing for all that time. You do spend most of your time in a spaceship though, so being seated just makes you feel like you're where you should be, in the cockpit of a ship. The game is also more of a slow burn kind of situation, which lends itself really well for the seated VR experience. There's no combat or fast-paced twitch reflex required, save for some parts. And for a game about rushing to save the world, it encourages you to really take your time. In between moments of high-octane spaceflight and crazy revelations, you stumble upon pockets of safety and comfort. I find myself being drawn to the idea of just sitting at the campfire and roasting marshmallows as you watch the celestial bodies orbit around you, with the music swirling in the background. All of this just feels so ethereal in VR. And the core gameplay loop is really just progression by obtaining knowledge from the scripts you read and translate throughout your journey. And since there's complete VR controller support, you're deciphering ancient texts by bringing your translator up to the glyphs on the wall. It's a tiny act, but man, does it make you feel like an explorer uncovering the secrets of some ancient tomb. And it can get pretty damn dark in these places that you're exploring. And because you're wearing a VR headset, you don't get the safety of looking at your reflection on a blank screen or sitting in a brightly lit room. No, you're trapped in the dark, and the only thing keeping you sane is the tiny sliver of light coming through the gap in between your nose and the headset. In particular, there is a very special section in the DLC where you're given a handheld lantern. And since you're using motion controls, you have to physically swing the lantern around to light the way. And because my hands are shaking so erratically, the shadows cast by the light feel alive, as if they were just waiting to devour me. You can't help but feel that somebody is always watching, and I find myself shooting a quick glance backwards, waiting in fear for that one moment when someone or something is there. Without going into too much detail, all I can say is that this game is all about discovery. And with each discovery is a high point both in terms of spectacle and story. The planets, ruins and landscapes you find yourself in feel so much more alive in VR. Together with the music, every moment never failed to take my breath away. And man, are there a lot of discoveries. Somebody commented that nothing in this game ever changes, but everything about how you see it does. And I completely agree. Experiencing each revelation through your VR goggled eyes feels so much more visceral. Every moment of awe is much more impactful. Every moment of heartbreak is just that much more tragic. And every moment of terror is 10 times as scary. Fuck me! Jesus fuck! So VR has all these fancy gimmicks, and so what? Well, Outer Wilds is very much an emotional roller coaster, and the driving force behind this game is you. Your curiosity and search for hope is what pushes you forward. This is a story you built in your head, shaped by the revelations you make depending on the order of the planets you visit or dots that you connect. We all reach the same conclusion, but our journeys are always different. And that's why it's so special, because by the end, this isn't just the story of some space archaeologist digging up ruins. This is your story. It's personal. And VR brings you so much closer to this world. We throw around the word immersion a lot. It's a great word for marketing, sales, and proving a point. But how else can I tell you that with each 22-minute cycle, interacting with these digital assets, these mere lines of code, and following the footsteps of a fictional civilization trying to save themselves, that I can say that I feel like I belong. I do not think I can go any further without spoiling the game. If you have to take away something from this point of the video, just know that I think we are very fortunate to have a game that's not too complicated and doesn't require an overabundance of inputs, as well as an extremely competent VR mod made by talented people, which, by the way, is completely free. And if you want to spice up the game a little bit more, you can consider adding the voice acting mod.
Hypothesis. It was not by accident the core of our warp tower was the last to be forged.
Hypothesis. The cores could have been forged faster if...
Now, it's not going to be winning any Oscars anytime soon, but a lot of what you discover are from the accounts of people long past. And being able to put a voice to their names just give a little bit more life to the characters that I grew to care about. And with that, here's your final warning. Everything from here on out is all spoiler town. When I first found out that our son's extended warranty had expired, I was defeated. There I was, standing with the blaze of the sun burning brightly in juxtaposition against the remains of a Nomai clutching a projection stone in its last moments. I just happened to check the readings nearby, and would you look at that, only 20 seconds left to live. But for some reason, certainty of death gave me a strange comfort. I didn't run out the door in a futile attempt at saving my life. Instead, much like the Nomai that came before me, I just sat down in silence and watched, mesmerized by the temper of the sun as I waited for my timely demise. When I finally saw the core of the interloper, I was broken. The scene of Poki's body crawling out of the core made my heart drop. It hurt knowing that no matter how hard the Nomai fought, their fate was sealed by a comet, one that burned so beautifully on the outside, despite hiding something so sinister within. When I connected the dots between the core of the Ash Twin and the vessel in the Dark Bramble, I was unwavering, hell-bent on making my way to that fated 6th location. And when I finally stood at that campfire surrounded by friends, I was content. I was the conscious observer, witnessing the birth of a new universe, of new people, and of new stories. There were so many beautiful moments that were realized like the Nomai grave or the Ash Twin project that I don't think would have meant as much to me if I hadn't experienced it in VR. It may not have been the intention, but I believe that this game should be played in VR, and I hope that you'll give it a chance. There's just something so magical about this game, about having a microcosm of an entire living galaxy condensed into 22 minutes. Technically, the game can be completed in 10 minutes. Organically, it would take about 10 hours. But the memories will stay in my mind forever.